And welcome back for our next session. We will do a live interview shortly. I have Josh Kallmer with me. He's the head of global public policy and government relations for Zoom. We're also doing our conference via Zoom, so thank you, Josh. Many of you might remember Josh from his previous position, because before joining Zoom, he was ITI's executive vice president for policy, leading ITI's efforts to influence policy developments around the globe, basically, in ways that enable innovation and economic growth, while supporting governments in achieving their public policy agendas. It's great to have you with me today. Josh, before we start, I would just give the audience the hint, it's basically just a hint, that we have a new chat online for feedback. So if you have feedback for this session or all the other ones you have visited and participated in, please feel free to drop us a message, because we are always willing and we're wanting to improve. It's the first virtual privacy conference, so yeah, you're absolutely welcome to give feedback on what you liked and what could be improved later on. But now, without further ado, Josh, I'm very happy that you agreed to do a live interview today on stage. We're not in the same room, unfortunately, but I can see you and you can see me, so it's basically the same thing. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, Josh, you work for Zoom, and Zoom has had quite an eventful and highly public journey in recent months when it comes to the issues of data protection and security. How has that been for you, and what do you think has your company learned?
So, well, first, Rebecca, let me just say thank you to you and to Bitkom for having me again. This is literally my favorite event every year. I feel like I've made a lot of great friends and just learned a lot over the last several years. Obviously, would like to be there in person, but hopefully next year, and appreciate you holding it on Zoom. It has been just an utterly transformative experience for this company over the last 6 months or so, in a way similar to the way it has been for everybody on the planet. We went in December from being a small company of about 3,000 people with about 10 million daily meeting participants to still being a small company of about 3,000 people, but in April, increasing that number of participants by a factor of about 30. Over 300 million daily meeting participants. I think last week it hit 360 million. But more important, I think, than the quantitative change was the qualitative change. What happened at the beginning of the pandemic is that we discovered and tried to enable a wide range of new consumer uses on the platform, people to connect with family, to have yoga classes, to have religious services, human rights discussions, very important kinds of settings, but things that we had never or had rarely confronted before as a business. Prior to that, basically all of our customers were large financial institutions, universities, companies, and so forth. And so to answer your question, the experience of making that transition and grappling in a very short period of time with a wide range of incredibly important privacy and security and online safety issues, it's been humbling, it's been educational, and in a way it's been really revealing about the company, which is one of the reasons I wanted to join. From the moment that the increased scrutiny and the increased attention to our security and privacy practices happened, from our CEO, Eric, on down, the approach was, we're not going to just get through this. We're going to learn from this, and we're going to infuse this experience with our values and our principles. And in particular, we're going to put a pause button on the development of all new features for 90 days to focus solely on security and privacy. We are going to invest in security, invest in advice about how to get better, and really make sure that that is in our DNA. And that's a process that continues. So I think, in short, it's been highly educational, and it's been something that has really allowed us to grow as a company.
And Josh, when you're saying you're still like a small company, I have to ask, because I heard that you're trying to increase your footprint in Germany and expand your Germany base, basically. Did you face any obstacles in this transformatory period?
Yeah, I mean, Germany is an incredibly important market for us and one we're just focusing on a lot. And I think about it maybe more as challenges, considerations, maybe even opportunities than obstacles. I think there are a few. The first is just that German society and the political environment is as sophisticated as it gets around public policy issues having to do with technology. And so you have to be prepared to have the discussion at a very thoughtful, substantive level, whatever issue you're talking about. The second issue is that you have to have a deep appreciation and respect for and inclination to align with the importance of privacy, of fundamental rights, of the values that Germans hold dear. And so making sure that humility and that respect is baked in how we approach these discussions is critical. And then I think that the third consideration is just the federal structure. There are a lot of people to talk to. There are a lot of people to get to know, to build trust relationships with. And it's a process we're investing in big time. I'm hiring multiple people in Germany. We have a lot of people already in our company working to build those relationships and to do it in the right way. We want to we're a US company that operates globally, but we want to be a German company. We want to play by German rules and we want to be a part of the German ecosystem. And so we're investing heavily in that.
That raises an interesting point because, as you know, there's still a massive focus on US-based companies and how they manage their data and what they do with their data. So maybe if you want to, can you elaborate a bit on what you at Zoom do with the data that you get?
Right. So our business model, it does not really depend on monetizing personal data. We don't do advertising. We're a subscription-based company. It's pretty straightforward. And so we collect a comparatively small amount of personal data. So it's things like, basic name, email address, things for setting up an account. There's metadata around when meetings are scheduled, who the participants are, when they enter and leave. There's data around the device that somebody has, the network that they're using, all things that help us provide the subscription-based service better. And we're just very rigorous in keeping it that way, in ensuring that anybody we work with, nobody's selling personal data, nobody is using it for any purpose other than for providing this unified communication service platform to people. And that's actually something, Rebecca, that is part of our growth story as well. We have and sort of apropos of what I was just saying, we understand how important personal data is in Europe as a whole, in Germany, and really around the world now. We're moving towards more significant data residency in Germany for communications content data. We're moving towards end-to-end encryption. And so these are all things that I think reflect our deep appreciation for how important it is to protect people's personal data.
Cool. Thank you, Josh. I think that was really helpful and really illustrated what you stand for at Zoom and what you do with the data, how you manage and handle it. Another thing, because it was kind of a large topic for our work and our Bitkom working group especially, because we talked about how the GDPR is governed on different levels. So it is a EU regulation, but we also have state laws. And here in Germany, we have several federal DPAs as well. So we have, I think it's 18 DPAs in Germany alone. Mm-hmm. So there's federal, state, and the EU level. And for you as a US company, as a global company, is it an issue setting up business here that it's governed on so many different levels?
I don't think it's an issue. It's, I think, a consideration. And what it means in very specific terms is that we have to work to establish, just in the data protection authority space, individual relationships with all of, not just the organizations, but the people in them. And we understand their role is to apply data protection law, to be independent regulators. And so I think we view our mission in that regard as enabling them to do that, to understand our company, to understand video conferencing, understand the steps we take to protect people's personal data, and then to arrive at their own views. But what we can control is the foot we put forward to them, excuse me for the alerts in the background, and the kind of tone that we create, which is one that is open, that is open to tough, fair conversations about what we do. And in fact, many people in the conference are affiliated with the lender level DPAs and are currently probably receiving outreach from me and my colleagues. This is a process we're going through right now. And just as with other elements of the federal structure in Germany, there are a lot of people to talk to, and we take that reality really seriously.
So right now it's basically about outreach and contacting all the different people and stakeholders on the different levels. I get that. I'm wondering whether it is the same on the other side of the globe, because I know that you're also doing business in China, and what kind of like situations or issues have arisen there maybe, or is it different from setting up business in Europe?
Right. So doing business in China, as a lot of companies, not just in the technology sector, not just headquartered in the United States, have discovered, is incredibly fraught. It can involve great market opportunities, and it also involves significant challenges, just because the rules of the road aren't always clear. There's a relationship between the state and the economy that is more intensive, I'll say, than we in the United States and Western Europe are used to, and in most cases comfortable with. And so I think just, you got to be honest about it. Operating in China involves constantly being vigilant to the kinds of pressures you're getting from the regulatory environment and some of the opacity of the regulatory environment, and making sure that you can do it in a way that's not just consistent with your business, but consistent with your values. And so we have not only business interests for marketing and selling our product in China, we also have developers there, and we have one of our global data centers is there. And so we have to be hyper vigilant about a few things. One is just security. We have to make sure, and we continue to work on it, that whatever we do there is subject to state-of-the-art cybersecurity, operational security, physical security, and we feel completely comfortable with what's happening there. The second, I think, is just developing a relationship with Chinese authorities that allows us to advance our values, deal with, occasionally you get requests for certain things. We had an experience this summer where we had some requests come in about meetings around the Tiananmen Square anniversary. And this goes back to your first question, Rebecca, about what we've learned from increased scrutiny. We learned from that experience that we needed to improve our internal systems for responding to requests, for having an analytical framework around it, whether it's China or any country, to look at the legal validity of requests, apply our values, and make judgments, and be prepared to make tough decisions. And so I think for any company operating in China, it continues to be a journey that's no less true for us. But I see us getting better and more rigorous every month.
Let me come back to another point you raised at the beginning of our interview, because you talked about how not only businesses switched basically from one day to another to Zoom meetings instead of meeting in person and traveling around the globe to meet each other, but it was also whole school classes that were visible on Zoom sessions because kids weren't allowed to go back to school because they couldn't meet there, and now they could be fine on Zoom. What have you learned about the education system when that happened a few weeks ago?
So, well, maybe the first thing we've learned is that this company has been partially responsible for the end of a long-time ritual of the snow day. And so, I think a lot of us as kids remember the joy of those, and maybe those won't be possible anymore. But seriously, I think what we've learned is that this is not only doable, but it's possible to do remote education incredibly effectively. My daughters are 11 and 8, and they're upstairs as we speak, doing school. Would they like to be together with their classmates? Absolutely. And I think we all hope for and look forward to the day when our kids can be together, when we can be together with our colleagues. But until that point, and probably even after that point, the nature of education has got to change, and companies like ours have got to be prepared for it and enable it. And so one thing that we're thinking a lot about is not just how to enable schools and teachers and students and administrators, but we're really focused on that. We've, I think, provided free services to over 120,000 schools worldwide, and we'll continue to support them. But also to understand that it's not just that you're doing school from home, it's that, you know, everybody's at home, right? And so you've got your parents maybe working, or other people, you know, doing things, and you're kind of running into each other in the halls and having this kind of odd day that people aren't used to having. Our tools need to accommodate that. We need to be sensitive to that. It's not just a change of location. It's a change of rhythm and a change of style. And it's something we're continuing to work on.
Yeah, that's true. And do you think everything we have learned about working remotely in the last month will stay with us even after the pandemic? Or do you think we'll just go back to where we came from?
Yeah, I'm certainly no futurist, but I probably, like a lot of people, I think about it a lot. My own view is that, and I speak from personal experience, I really crave being around people in person. I know it's this way in Berlin. It's certainly this way in Washington and Brussels. When you're in a public policy environment, you want to spend time with people. You want to run into each other on the sidewalks. That's kind of where a lot of the magic happens. But at the same time, I think even, and I'm going to say when, because I'm an optimist, when we get through this crisis and we have the ability more or less to go back to normal, I think life will change, and people will realize all of the wonderful benefits of being able to work remotely, for their ability to tend to their families, for the environment, for not sitting in traffic, whatever it is. And so our company is both about enabling people to work remotely at as high of a level of productivity as before, but also to the extent that people are in office spaces or in co-working spaces or in coffee shops, to do that seamlessly as well. And so I think the future will be sort of a hybrid one. It will be a lot more flexible. There'll be somewhat less commercial office space, but I think there'll still be a substantial amount of it. And I think not just video conferencing companies, but all technology companies have a role to play in sort of bringing about a soft landing for this future, whatever it looks like.
I really like this hybrid idea, I think, because I guess it would be absolutely fantastic if we can work in the same rooms again at some point, and meet at conferences and meet up at all in larger groups. But I think there are a few advantages of working remotely that will stick with us, because we can reduce travel time, and I think there are a lot of meetings that are just as well if we're doing them remotely. So I guess we'll take a few things from the situation we're basically in.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Josh. Thank you for taking the time to do the interview with me, and thank you and your company basically for enabling all of us, because you and all of your colleagues from all the other video conferencing services really did make this happen. That not only this conferences, but I think that we're still being able to continue to work, to communicate worldwide. I think those are cornerstones of our community nowadays, and you guys played a large part in that. So thank you. Thanks again for your time. I really hope that I get to speak to you soon. And yeah.
Thank you so much. No, it's been a privilege, Rebecca, and we are eager to continue doing it, eager to continue getting feedback. And I'll just say a brief hello to everybody out there. Sorry I did not get to see you in person, but hopefully before too long we can. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Josh, for your time. See you soon.